All right. We are back. Hey, y'all. Welcome to another episode of Montgomery's Meaningful Monogamy. Thank y'all so much for tuning in. And of course, y'all know something got to be up because you only see me. But I'm excited to welcome our guest for today. It is somebody who is literally a trailblazer. She doing it, okay? All the things. She is so creative. She's a visionary. She's a blessing to the body of Christ. So I just want to take the time to just introduce y'all to Dr. Rachel Silver.
Hey, so glad to be here.
Yes, I'm so glad to have you here. We have definitely been preparing and we're just excited for our viewers to get to know you better, but also for you to get to just shed a light on a very interesting topic that they will find out about if they stay tuned.
Okay.
So, just to kind of get things going, I know people are like, okay, who is this? She got doctor in front of her name. So I just want to give you the opportunity to introduce yourself. That would look like, tell us, how long have you been a Christian? Where are you from? A little bit about your background. How did you come to be who you are today? What did that little journey look like for you?
Okay, talk about a loaded question.
It is, right?
Loaded question. So, as you shared, my name is Dr. Rachel Silver. I am the CEO and instructional designer for Align Goals, where I basically help individuals and organizations develop strategies, courses, programs, learning experiences, and I do that either with them or for them. And so I actually, for many years, I would see patients by day and I would educate
Mm,
by night. That
mm,
educate by night turned into curriculum development. It turned into
mm.
so many other things. And so I began to lean in on that side a little bit more.
Okay.
I also, I really enjoy serving people. So I've been in organizational leadership for many years, did a lot of training and facilitation and such as well.
Okay.
And so that's kind of where those educational hats kind of came from.
Mm.
Originally from Camden, New Jersey. So
Okay.
right
Okay,
across, not
Camden
too far from
girl.
Philly here. I live in
Nice.
Delaware now. Most of my adult life I've been down south. So
Okay.
North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, Virginia, all those states. So I've been kind of down that
Nice.
way.
Okay.
I've been saved. I can't say a specific time
Mhm.
how long I've been saved because I literally remember begging to get baptized as a little girl when I
Oh,
was young
wow.
and I was too young to get baptized. They were like,
Oh,
"She's not even 12 yet." So I remember begging and saying all the reasons why and
yeah.
and such. I remember getting baptized again in high
Mhm.
school and I was like, I gotta recommit some
The
things to God,
child.
right?
Mhm.
And I've had, different journeys in my relationship with God over
Got
years.
you.
So there's definitely seasons where I have not been as close, and there's seasons where I've been like
Mm.
full in, all in. I
On fire.
remember it's a very pivotal moment for me. I remember like just literally walking in my neighborhood, I like to walk. I used to do this thing called walk and talk, so that I'll just share like random thoughts and stuff. But I would always, just a time for me just to clear my mind, a time
Yeah.
for me to just be one with God. And I
Mm.
remember coming home from a walk, and it's had to be, I don't know, 3 or 4 years ago. I don't even really know exactly the time frame. But I remember just coming into my house and just crying out to God and just
Mm.
worshiping God in a way that I had never done before. And I've worshiped, I've always loved worship. I've praised,
Mm.
all the things, but this was different. This was
Mm.
something that was like, God, I just fully surrender everything to you.
Mm.
So while that wasn't like my got saved moment, and I had been in ministry, years
Yeah.
before, that was a pivotal moment just for me
Mm.
and God and my relationship with God and really just giving him really my whole heart. We say it, love the Lord thy
Yeah.
God with your whole heart, but that was really that moment for me.
Oh,
So I
that's
don't know if they
good.
answered your questions
Oh
because
no,
there's a
you
lot
that was
of them.
that was beautiful. I completely understand because I know I personally have had my moments too. And I think that I don't know, I think those moments I feel like it's a washing taking place. It's a cleansing taking place. It's also a reminder because I'm currently going through a book right now and I was reading with Jacob and when Jacob saw the ladder of the vision and his response once he put the pillar and, he built the pillar and things. And his vow, it was kind of like, oh, well, he kind of was like, oh, well, now I know that you're here. So it goes to show that before then, he didn't feel he obviously didn't know the omnipresence of God or feel like God was with him and God had to show him. And I feel like those are those moments where you're like reminded,
Right.
because sometimes on this side of eternity we forget that, wait a minute, no, Lord, not just at church or not just when I feel like it, but like you are with me, like he's there. And so those moments are always beautiful. I just want to backtrack a little bit. And so, cause CEO, okay, baby, I heard it, it popped up, the people heard it, they like, oh, this girl got it, she doctor, she CEO. So what did that look like? You branding out with your curriculum writing and, starting up the company that you have. Um what inspired you to do that? And then, like, also, how does your faith and your belief in God also inspire what you do?
Yeah. Ooh, so there's a few different things that inspired it. One, like I said, I did a lot of training and stuff, mostly organizationally and regionally. And I remember doing a particular training that had to be done the way it was created. So there's some things where you can create yourself. There's some things you have to do it the way it was created so everyone gets the same thing. And I remember thinking this isn't even how people learn. So
Yeah.
all we're doing is sharing knowledge because we're not training or teaching them anything. That's how I
Mm.
felt. And I said, I need to be on the side where I'm creating it so that it's just not knowledge being given to people, but they're
Yeah.
actually able to apply and use the knowledge in their life. So that was,
Mm.
just a passion of mine. I'm from the beginning. Like when I started teaching higher ed, they were like, the pass rate is 49%. So most of the students going to fail. And I was like, what are we doing about it? And they were like, nothing. It's
Wow.
probably going to be lower because you're new. And I was like, wait. So I
Oh.
began to learn how people learn. Then I got
Mm.
involved with like research and such. And we were able to
Wow.
increase that. So I just had a passion for really connecting to the learner and being more from the
Mm.
learner experience and the teacher experience.
That's
And so that just was something that I really enjoyed and really enjoyed engaging in.
Mhm.
So when I started to implement that more
Yeah.
just in the areas that I was already serving in, whether it was an organization or whether it was a church or, wherever it was, I
Yeah.
began to implement it. Or it could have just been somebody they were trying to do a training for their employees at their job. Maybe they were a program manager, or something like that, or a
Mhm.
director. And I began to do it, but I was doing it for free. And here I
Okay.
was most of my career
Wow.
I worked 2 and 3 jobs. Like, most of my career, I had the full-time job, and then by 6,
Mm.
7 at night, I would teach at night, so here
Yeah.
I am working these
Mm.
extra jobs, working all these extra hours to make what, 10, 20,000 a year, and I'm pouring strategy, I'm pouring courses, I'm pouring trainings and others that they're
Jeez.
making money off of, and I was like, "You know what?
Wait a minute.
I should probably make a business out of this. I should
Yeah.
probably do this." And I really began to pray and kind of ask God,
Mm.
what He would have me do. And it's kind of funny because some of the things that God showed me and some of the things that I do and some that I've yet to do is some of the things my dad actually shared years ago. And I was like, yeah, I don't see me doing
Ah.
that. So it's
Wow.
kind of funny how that's coming full circle. But
That's dope.
yeah, just begin to say I'm going to do a business out of this.
Okay.
And there is someone whose community I was in.
Mhm.
And I was like, you know what? Maybe I should make a course with him. He does courses, he has
Yeah.
things, maybe I'll ask if he wants a course. And I was like, nah, I'm not gonna ask him because he
Yeah.
he he has great courses already. We don't
Yeah,
look
he
like
don't need
asking if he
me.
wants. And it was
Oh,
really on my
wow.
heart. I prayed to God, and God is like, ask. And I really was very hesitant, but I was like, you
Yeah.
know what? I'm going to be obedient. And I reached out. He was like, oh my gosh, I've been praying for this. I've been
Oh,
praying for this help because it's been a lot. And so,
wow.
it just shows how our steps of
Mm.
obedience, even when we are not
Come
confident or
on.
even when we don't see the big picture, how that is really an answer to someone else's prayer and
Mm.
how impactful that can be, not just for
Gee.
you, not just for them, but for all the people that you get to serve as well. So that's kind of how it started. And then it was word of mouth. And then I was like, you know
Yeah.
what? Let me be a little more intentional about this thing.
Yeah.
So yeah.
That's really good, and that just blessed me. Because I'm always thinking about that, and I always think about it from the lens of you don't know what someone maybe blessing, deliverance, like what's on the other side of your obedience. And sometimes I know one big thing be pride, another big thing do be fear. But it's like when we do take that opportunity to ask or promote or whatever we're doing, like 9 times out of 10, it don't be as bad as we think it's about to be. And
Mm-mm.
it we end up seeing how the Lord really didn't want to just bless you, but also bless them. And like you were praying, but they were praying. Like it's like I love when it's a tit for tat like that, and you just see how the Lord's hand is really on us, and He really does order our steps. But one thing He told me a while back, and it's been blessed me my whole life. He said, "Now, Brianna, I can't order steps you ain't taking. You love reading this little verse. Lord, order my steps. You ain't moving, sweetheart. How I'ma order them?" And so, like, you took that step, and He was able to order, and now we sitting here talking to you. We bless God.
Yes.
Okay, y'all. What steps y'all need to take that's watching this? Take the step. Because I got steps I gotta take. All right. So now let's shift a little bit. So let's talk about the season that you're in. Being first of all, you a boss. I'm sorry, I'm just say it. You're a boss. Okay. You are a believing woman, beautiful. You're single. So with that, being a boss, being a believer, because I feel like both of those, having them together, like when you own your stuff, purpose driven, and you a believer, I'm not gonna say slim pickings, but like we weed through the trash real fast. Like, oh, that's I shouldn't call, I'm not calling the people trash, the character of the people, not the people, Lord. So, what are some of the biggest challenges you have faced, especially now being like like what the Lord has called you to do? You're walking in purpose. You're also walking kingdom purpose too. Like, I have this business, but I also got his business. So you're doing both of those. So yeah, what are some of the biggest challenges you faced?
Ooh, in business or in singlehood, like just being a single in business.
Yes, yes.
So I think there's different challenges in different seasons. If I
Mm.
wanted to say the biggest challenge, it would be really leaning in and knowing that it doesn't have to look like society says it should look or how
Mm.
we expect it should look.
Oh
And I
yeah.
think and I just recently said this, I think for so long I was trying to, I mean, we're told do not conform to this world, be ye
Come
transformed by
on.
the
By the
renewal of
renewal
your
of your
mind and be
mind.
not,
Amen.
conform to the world.
Mm.
But for so long, it was like, well, the world could have been a church in the way the church wants it done, or it could be, oh, this is how society wants it done. And really leaning into God and asking God, how do you want it done? And how do you want this thing done in my life? I think has been the
Mm.
biggest challenge because that doesn't always look popular
At all.
at all.
Trust me.
Because people in the world and people in the church don't understand.
Okay.
So it just really isn't always a popular walk. But
Mm.
the mindset piece, like really renewing our mind and making sure that our mind is with God, because if not, you can get very have a scarcity mindset, have a defeated mindset,
Yeah.
have a time frame,
Yeah.
chronos time frame
Come
mindset. The
on.
mindset really can be the thing that gets in the way because God can be telling you to do something and it doesn't look
Mm.
like what you're asking God for. And it doesn't look like it has anything to do with your
At
desires
all.
are. But I know from experience that the steps of obedience open doors that link to areas that I may not have known. And
Yeah.
so it's the same thing in our relational life. Is the steps of obedience, the
Mhm.
steps of surrender to God. They open doors that we may not see right now.
Come on now.
And our steps of disobedience close doors for this moment and in this
Mhm.
season. And so I think one of the biggest challenges is really capturing the mind, having a
Mm.
positive mindset, not falling into what the world sees or what we see, with our
Mhm.
natural eyes see, but really having a positive mindset and really submitting that to God and
Yeah.
allowing that to lead how we make decisions and not making decisions based on, oh, well, if I don't do this, this will happen, or
Yeah.
maybe I can accommodate to this so that this can happen. No, this is
Yeah.
what God told me to do. This is what
Yeah.
God how God told me to live. And
Mm.
because he's an abundant God, I'm going to have the promises
Come on
of
now.
that obedience.
He withholds no good thing.
Not at all.
Okay. That's good. I do want you to share because we're talking about the renewing of the mind, and it's very important. So practically, I would like for you to share just one maybe step or a practical tip for somebody who's watching, are like, okay, what does that look like for me?
Yeah.
What is one thing that you may have shifted, mentally, or like have been doing that has helped you to renew your mind as you're, believing God for this next season?
Yeah, so for me, it started off, so my background on the patient side is healthcare, right?
Got you.
So for me, it started off from a practical side is one, how am I taking care of myself? Because
Mm,
our Bible says, love your neighbor as you love yourself. So if you don't know love, God is love, and you
mm,
don't know yourself and you're not forgiving yourself and you're not taking care of yourself, how
mm,
can you really love this spouse or this neighbor in a way
mm.
that is healthy and whole?
Ooh.
And so I began to one, know who God is in a different
Mm,
way because he's love, and really begin to reshift my mindset and reshift my identity to me being his child and me
mm,
being his heir, and really leaning into that. And
okay.
then I began to say, okay, got that. Now, how do I love myself? Now, I still got work on this one, y'all. But how do I love myself? Okay, am I drinking enough water? Am I going for this
Mm,
walk? When things become overwhelmed or my mindset is negative, the first thing I do is say, am I praying? Am I reading my word? Am I
mm.
drinking water? And am I walking?
Come on.
That's my four practical
Okay, will
steps.
change your
And
life.
10 times out of 10, when I do those things, it doesn't matter what's happening around me,
Yep.
the peace is there.
Come
I have
on.
nothing but peace
Come
exuding
on.
from me and overflowing from me. When I
Mm.
don't do those things, the
Yeah.
chaos is there. Maybe not total
Yeah.
chaos, but you know what I mean? Like it
Mm.
really, so practical steps is really making sure that we spend time with God. So that's kind of how I started. And today I wake up, there's different seasons in my life where I'm like, okay, I'm gonna study for hours, or I'm gonna get this
Yeah.
in. But right now, I wake up in the first 15 minutes, I'm like, it's me and you, God.
Yeah.
Because my sleep pattern had changed. It's getting back to normal, praise God. But it had changed.
Amen.
So I could be up 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the morning, and I would start
Mm.
working. Because
Mm.
I have more, I do too much. So
Yeah. I
I said, you know what?
understand.
Let me reset this thing, and I don't care what's going on. I need for my start to be you,
Mm.
because you're going to show me what I need to be reading.
Come
You're going to
on.
show me what I need to be doing. You make things more efficient for me.
Yeah.
Your way is way better than my way. And I'm a
Come
really good
on.
strategist. I'm a really good planner. But God, your way is way better than
Come
my way. So let me
on.
go to you first. So that's kind of the practical thing that I do. And having accountability
Yeah.
too.
Oh, oh. She said the A word.
Having accountability, having people that you can be true, honest with, who can
Mm.
correct you, and
Ooh.
you're going to listen to the correction that they're giving to you, like that's
Oh,
very
okay.
important as well. Because
Okay.
sometimes people are going to see things that you don't see, and sometimes
The
that means
blind
you need to
spots.
act, and especially if it's someone that God has sent you, that you pray for, and
Mm.
that He has shown you. Sometimes you're going to have to take actions that you're like, this doesn't make sense. I don't agree
Mm.
with this, but it does make sense, and you just got to walk out of your comfort zone.
Yeah.
So
That's really
accountability.
good. And that made me think about when you got on the planning part, a verse that I've really like recently, probably within the last year, I've been like I keep pulling it back out. It's in Psalms 139. And I know we always think about, the fearfully and wonderfully made and other stuff he said. He said in that verse, before one of my days began, you wrote and planned out each one. And like I tell him all the time when I'm talking to my single sisters, and maybe there is a guy, or or something, but and I'm trying to figure out who doing the picking. Is they doing the picking, or is God doing the picking, or they both picking? Because I'm like, one thing about us, we only know our past and our present. So when we pick, we're gonna pick based off of that. God knows our future. For instance, my husband, he didn't know that 2.5 years into his marriage, his dad will end up having cancer, and that he will really need to be cared for. And so he couldn't have on his own picked a wife that already had that mindset. And like I've already elderly. That's the my I love. I could be around the old people all the time. I will, but like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you just don't know.
Right.
You don't know what's gonna happen to your people or yourself. Like, you want to. So when God pick, He sees all of that. He know. Okay, this gonna happen. This gonna. Okay, can she? Like, He the ultimate strategist. Like, and so it's like when you said that, I was like, man, like, I'm gonna just glean into that a little bit more for anybody who's watching. And our picker we don't have a good picker friend because our picker don't know the future. And like, it's not to say that you have no play. Of course, like you need to be attracted to the person. But bring them before the Lord. Like, Lord, here's the 6'9" chocolate. You know how the women be. Like, I'm messing with y'all, but bring them before the Lord. All right, for those who have stuck around, let's get into the topic of today. All right. So, today we are talking about understanding cohabitation, okay, and its risk. So, meaning for those who are like, okay, what we talking about? Living together before your marriage. We're gonna talk about it. So, um, whew, all right. So a lot of times I kind of put and I know some people will say that's not what's happening. But when I think about cohabitation, I also think about sex before marriage because 9 times out of 10. So and I feel like people, when they look at it, not necessarily sometimes not from a biblical lens, but when they're looking at it from a worldly lens, they're like, okay, I need to know that I can live with this person, how they like the temperature, like how they brush their teeth, like, you know what I mean? Like, you a side sleeper, whatever. I don't know what everybody, and they think it's like a trial run. Like, let me, or like how we call it the test drive, let me see if I really want to do this. And the mindset, and it's really the enemy, the mindset is if we do this trial run and it goes well, we're gonna have a successful marriage. So you mean to tell me that y'all do this for what? Maybe a couple months to a year. You're gonna use that gauge. That's a small gauge in comparison to however long y'all gonna live to be married. So that's small to this. So what are your thoughts?
As far as the trial run theory,
Mm-hmm.
so yeah, trial run tells me I am trying to look for something that is wrong or something that does or does not fit. And in marriage, we're becoming one. So everything is wrong when you're doing things separately, right? We're becoming one. So that means the toothpaste or the whatever
Come
in the
on,
world
the
that people
seat
are
up.
arguing about, seat up, whatever in the world, that means you're making accommodations for that. You're either going to figure a way for it not to bother you or
Ooh.
figure a way to change one, or communicate for how we can make this work, right?
Ooh.
So if you're trial running, what are you trial running? Learning how to communicate in order to make something work, you should be married to do that because at the end of the day, you're becoming one, right? Now I speak a good game.
Go ahead,
But I
girl.
ain't gonna lie, I've had some experiences in the past. Didn't really think of it as a trial run. That wasn't my mindset, but I've definitely
Gotcha.
had some experiences in this area in the past. So
And so since I mean, hey, it's there. You alluded to have experienced this. So when you experienced it, do you believe, like for you personally, was there any pressure either from the person or friends or family, or did you feel like pressure to cohabitate or
yeah,
how did it?
absolutely not. That's the crazy thing about it is I
Okay.
had no pressure at all.
Okay.
It was my idea.
Oh.
I was the one in the church and in ministry. He was not. It was just pure foolishness. But let me tell
Okay. Go ahead. All right, friend.
but it was coming from an
Mhm.
unhealed place. So I had been in a long distance relationship in the past.
Mm.
And at the time, I was like, I have no interest in being in a long distance relationship. I've since changed that
Got
mindset.
you.
But at the time,
Got
I
you.
had no interest in being in a long distance relationship. I was moving. We literally knew each other less than 6 months and moved to a new state together and lived together for the first time in a new state that we were both becoming acclimated in.
Okay.
Now, I know you said that you usually think sex before marriage is the first thing that comes to most people's mind. And there was no pressure. Honestly, if anything, it would have been the opposite. My parents definitely told me how they felt about it before it happened. It was like, look, I know you're an adult,
Uh,
but I'm
it's
gonna
a
let you
given.
know
Okay.
this is what God's way. So, but I didn't listen. So we did have two bedroom, two bath. The first 2 years, I was in a long relationship, y'all, 6 years.
Mm.
First 2 years we didn't have sex. Now I can't say there was no close moment.
Okay.
Can't say that, but we actually he respected my boundary because that was something that was important to me. It wasn't important to
Mm.
him. But some of the dangers of that, there's a lot of dangers of it. Is
Mm.
one, you can be at so in a relationship, you can have different seasons,
Yeah.
and two people aren't necessarily in the different season at the same time. And I've learned
Mm.
that from past experience and even from friends that are married. I've heard them say some of the same thing. Like,
Yeah.
I may be going through something that they're not going through, but then they have to learn how to understand,
To
things like that.
navigate,
So
yeah.
with moving in together, clearly this man moved to a whole different state. His mindset was marriage.
Mm.
I wasn't ready for marriage. I was like, nah, we got to know each other all the seasons. And,
Mm.
I'm making up all of these things about why we weren't ready to get married, yet we were moving in together foolishly. But then by the time I was ready to get married, he wasn't. So now here's the danger of living together is you may be going through these different seasons and you have
Ooh.
this false sense of, I don't know, connection or this false sense
Yeah.
of covenant. It's
Or
not covenant.
ownership. Mhm.
Right. And you may not be at the same place. So he was ready, I
Jeez.
wasn't. I was ready, he wasn't. Then we both wasn't ready. Had some
Mm.
conversations, then we both were ready. We're
Yeah.
planning, had the deposit down, in the wedding venue, all that good stuff. And then he wasn't ready. And then we began to just exist. So
Mm.
some of the dangers is really not being on the same page.
Yeah.
One of the dangers,
Yeah.
as you're going through the relationship, when it's going towards marriage, if that is something that you're wanting and desiring,
Mm.
you really are given this false, rhythm and pace towards it. That's
Okay.
one of the dangerous,
Yeah.
dangerous, dangers.
And you can share some spiritual dangers as well as you're on the danger topic.
Absolutely. And so, from the spiritual side, you are really developing a soul tie. You're really
Mm.
developing a bond and knitting really your soul and knitting everything with someone else.
Yeah.
And you begin to get into the rhythm because
Mm.
honestly, there were times that it was comfortable. And so you begin to get into comfort and the
Mm.
rhythm of comfort and not necessarily the rhythm of calling. And so now instead of focusing on what it is that God is telling you to do, you're just focusing on a daily life. Instead of focusing on vision,
Ooh.
values, goals, you're just focusing on, A, B, C, whatever. And it's not that you're
Yeah.
not building anything, because clearly two people that are together, if they are communicating and they're growing together, they're going to
Mm.
be building something.
Mm.
But is what they're building the thing that God has given you the instructions for,
Mm.
that God has given you the tools for? Are you building that? Are you
Yeah.
building and establishing God's kingdom on earth? Or are you still saying, I want to be my own God? Because that's what happened in the Garden of Eden. We were like, I
Okay.
want to know good and evil. I want to be my own
I wanna
God.
be
So
like
now
God.
you're
Yeah.
establishing and you're building something, but it's not an establishment of God's kingdom on earth.
Yeah.
And so that is definitely a spiritual danger.
Mm.
And it takes a lot to break that.
Yeah.
And then so you tend to stay longer than you should.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, and then so another word is coming back to me. So I know that your parents spoke. Was there any other accountability at that time on your end or his end?
There was, so on his end, I would say not necessarily
Okay.
like in that regard, I don't
Mm.
think. Um and on my end, I had some other accountability, and I was stepping step by step away from it.
Got you.
So before we had even moved in, before I had
Mm.
even moved, I had already begun to take step by step
Got you.
away. And so while the accountability in a way was still there, it wasn't something that I was really subject to or surrendered
Mhm.
to. I was really disconnecting. I was in
Got you.
disconnect mode, which was why
Mm.
it was so easy to
Mm.
disconnect spiritually here. Because he would go to my church and stuff down there because he
Mhm.
really wasn't into church. He would
Okay.
go, and then when we got here, he actually went when I was looking, and then he was just like, I don't want to do this. And it
Okay.
was there, it was definitely a different. So because I was already so used to putting a pattern of disconnect. And it wasn't
Yeah.
even that I was trying to disconnect from God. I don't know if you've ever been over ministry or on church boards or seen,
Yeah.
all of that.
Yeah.
It was disconnecting from ministry. And
Got
because when you
you.
soon as you walk into a church, they like, "Oh, you can do." I was
Oh,
also
yeah.
like, "Yeah, I don't want to jump back into that." When I
Mm.
first moved away, and
Got
so
you.
I was disconnecting from ministry. He was already, had his own spiritual thing going on, and it was very the danger of us living together was
Mm.
that it was just disjointed
Got
from
you.
a union that is of God. I mean, at first we would pray together and stuff, but that all went away. all of that went away. And so when I did begin to reconnect with God and now you're living together,
Yeah.
that was a whole journey in and of itself.
Yeah.
And what I began to do was shrink. And I began to hide my relationship with God because of the interruption that it would have in a relationship that we had together.
Jeez.
And that is dangerous.
Very extremely. Like, if you can't be the giant that you are in that prayer room, it's a problem.
Right.
Okay. You got to be able to stand. We covered a lot. I had a question pop in my head that I kind of want you to answer of. So, how long has it been since this?
4 years.
Okay. Okay, so 4 years removed. Okay. So
4 years.
okay,
4
so
years
you'll be able
a
to.
little bit more than 4 years. We lived
Okay.
together for 6 months after we broke up. So
Okay.
yeah.
Got you.
But yeah.
So you now reconnected. Also, you are soaring. I just want to say, because she, is going to give her gems. I just want to say for anybody who's watching, and maybe you're in that situation and you're like, okay, y'all coming for my neck. And you may be asking, what a Bible? We going to give you some Bible. Okay, give me a second because I want to answer this. What would one word of advice would you give to yourself then? So now, look what the Lord has done. Girl, you're glowing. Okay. You got your spiritual giant out here. What would you say to yourself then? What word of advice?
Yeah, I think the first thing I would say is pay attention to the words that you speak over yourself,
Mm.
verbally and internally.
Ooh.
Because I began to speak words over myself prior to even getting in that relationship. I began to speak words over, there are no men in the church who will honor what I'm doing. So it's more guys outside of the church that will honor my abstinences in the church. Or when people would say, what do you want? Oh, I want a man of God. Oh, don't say that. That goes without saying. And so you begin to remove some of the terminology. Okay, well, let me not say that because that goes without saying. But now you're not saying the things that you want and desire. Now you're speaking over yourself the things that you don't want and desire. And you're creating, because we are powerful beings, and you're creating and opening up doors for you in your life for you to walk through and for you to invite other people to walk through. So I think the word of advice that I would give myself back then was pay attention to the words that you're saying over yourself. Pay attention to the walk that you're walking, and pay attention to God and not the things that are just surrounding you in the way that things look.
That's good. That's really good. Man, that because it makes me think about the Spider-Man movie, that negative self-talk. But sometimes even we may not even realize that maybe it's not necessarily negative, but is it God honoring?
Right.
Did God say?
Right.
What is God saying? Yeah. And we don't realize until we're in a situation like, wait a minute, like this was already brewing in my heart, and now it is something that I'm seeing play before me. It just goes to show that it's going back to renewing the mind. It's all tying in together. And so with that, what are some ways because one thing about the topic that we're talking about is very common, like extremely common in the church, out the church. People arms be up. They be like, "Nah, man, I can do this." Da, 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 da. They be ready. They be coming in hot.
Yeah.
So let's get into the Bible. What does the Bible say about cohabitation?
About cohabitation? Well, this goes back to the sexual part. So it definitely, not even going there. It says, how can we walk together unless we agree? I think that's in
Got you.
Amos, right? So let's talk about us walking with God, right?
Yeah.
Like we're walking with God and we're agreeing with his word and we're agreeing with the things that his word says. How can we walk with someone else in a way that doesn't align with that?
Yeah, this makes sense.
Right? We already now have an issue. And it opens us up to compromise.
Yeah.
Because honestly, even when because I did have sex, I ended up having sex. Even when I had sex, it didn't start off from hot and heavy, I'm so in love, like I have this passion for you. It was more, man, he deserves this. He been around. It was so
Yeah.
you begin to compromise because you care about the other person and what their needs
Jeez.
are, right? But
Mm.
you're now in you're in a relationship outside of the covenant that God has, and He tells us
Mm.
there's only one institution that I know about in the Bible, and that's marriage. And He tells
Yeah.
us to have self control. He tells us that we need to be married and have our
Mhm.
own husband and have our own
Own
wife,
wives. Okay.
and you can't do that and have that ownership outside of God, outside of His will. It
Yeah.
just isn't possible. You begin to compromise and you begin to do more and more things that are not in alignment with Him or His kingdom.
That's really good. And so one another big word, because I know we touched on accountability and community and the important role that that plays. Another big word is boundaries, and I know that people are quick to say, because I know for me personally, my boundaries
Mm,
still to this day are set a certain way because I know me,
right.
and I know me with them, and I know me without them, and so I'm like, yeah, we not, and so for the Christian singles who are like, okay, I want to honor God, I want to protect my future marriage. What boundaries should they be upholding either as they're dating or planning to date? Like, what should you know? Let's start couple of boundaries out.
Yes. So in the Bible, it tells us above all to guard our heart
Mm,
because out of it comes the issues of life, right?
yeah,
It also tells us that the heart is deceitful above all things, right? So the
yeah.
first boundary is not, I don't think you should follow your heart. That's just me, right? So that's the first
She
boundary
said it, y'all.
is we're not following our heart, right?
Okay.
It's not about comfort. We need
Mm,
clarity and it needs to align with God. That's really what we need. And so when we set our boundaries, it's impossible to set boundaries without values. So the first thing you have to do is understand what your values are. And if your values are aligning with God or if they're aligning with something that's traumatic, then we
mm,
need to begin to
yeah.
address that as
Real
well,
quick.
right?
Yeah.
But we have to know what our values are in order to
Mm,
set boundaries. And
mm,
unfortunately, in today, there's so many people with sexual trauma. One of the things
yeah.
that's connected
Yeah.
with that is not understanding how to set or express boundaries. And
Mm,
so that is something that we really like I really focus on with when I'm working with people is that boundaries is so super important. And you can't, it's not about, oh, should I kiss or should I not kiss? Or should I
mm.
be out, after this certain time? I mean, yeah, that can come into play. But before we can do any of that,
Come
we
on.
gotta know what our values are. What is our
Yeah.
core values and is it aligned with God's word? Then
Jeez.
we can begin to align our life with that. And when we do that, those other things, they'll be
Yeah.
put into play. And then we
Yeah.
not only have to set boundaries, but we have to know how to healthily communicate those boundaries.
Yeah.
So sometimes, I'm sorry, my sisters, sometimes we be like, well, he's not this or he's not that, so I'm not going to deal with him. But did you
Yeah.
even tell him, I didn't
Mm.
like when this, or this is not going to
Mm.
work for me to even
Communication.
see if he accommodates or if he shifts
Mm.
to respect the boundary that you communicated or didn't communicate.
Yeah.
So we definitely have to also learn how to not just set our boundaries based on our values, but also how to express them in a healthy manner and communicate them in a healthy manner and not be upset or mad that someone else doesn't agree with them.
Yeah.
So if they're like, "Well, that's not gonna work for me," or but you ain't never gonna get married because da, 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 da," if
Mm.
that's a language they're speaking, you have to learn not to get mad at that. That's okay.
Yeah.
That simply shows you that doesn't sound like the God that I serve. It doesn't sound
Mm.
like the value that I have. Thus, this can't be my person because the person that I have is not going to push through a boundary.
That's good.
So yeah.
And so for the person watching, I love when you said we need to know how to healthily, like, how do I say this in a healthy way that this is my boundary? Can you give an example of a boundary in a way to healthily communicate like this is my boundary?
Yeah, absolutely. So I don't kiss and
Okay.
not be in an exclusive relationship. I'm not the one that's like, I'm waiting to the altar. I do have
Yeah.
some friends that's like, I'm not, if it ain't that
I
close,
have friends that did that
I
too.
ain't
Yeah.
kissing. I'm not quite there, but I'm not kissing and we're not in an exclusive relationship. Like, I just don't feel like that is something that I need to do.
Mm,
And so that is something that's expressed. If I'm dating a guy or, I let him know this is not something that I do. I'm not going to kiss, I'm not going to be in a relationship. And they be like, okay, well, let's get in a relationship. Well, I'm not going to get in a relationship and we haven't we haven't developed the foundation of friendship, and I don't even really
Mm.
know who you are yet. I think that we need to
Mm.
just take our time. And I
That's
think
good.
having that conversation, and if someone
Mm.
is like coming at you, saying all the different things, I honestly think it's okay to say to someone, you know what? I appreciate your feedback. I just don't think we're a good match. I've had that
Mm.
conversation with people.
Yeah.
I've been on dates, I've dated, and I've said, look, you seem like a great person, but based on what my values are and based on what you're wanting and desiring, we're not a
Mm.
good match. And, sometimes they were like, well, we are,
Yeah.
but you just have to stand your ground and be like, no, we're not.
That's good.
Or, another way of expressing a boundary is, um, you want to cuddle or you want to do some, this is not the way that I engage in relationship. And
Mm.
actually communicating that, because sometimes people feel uncomfortable and don't communicate it, and then they're upset at the other person. So the healthy way of doing it is actually communicating and actually
Yeah.
speaking and saying,
Yeah.
"This is what I need." And
Yeah.
I'm real big on in conflict. You use "I feel" statements, like "I feel this, I need this." So I'm real
Yeah.
big on that as well.
Got
Um,
you.
yeah,
That's good. And since I'm gonna backtrack for like 2 seconds and then we'll go back forward. But you mentioned the word foundation, and I just wanted you to go back over real briefly. So, because we've been talking about cohabitation, right? Living together before marriage. So, how do you think that doing it, right? Living together before marriage, how can that affect a couple's ability to build a strong foundation, right? Because as you were saying, you need a strong foundation even before before you get into a relationship, but definitely when you're talking marriage. So how can living together beforehand affect that?
yeah, absolutely. So, as I was saying earlier, I think we always build. Like if
Mm.
we're communicating with someone, if we have a good relationship, we're going to be building. But what are we
Yeah.
building, right?
Mm.
So usually when someone goes to build, they have a blueprint,
That's good.
right, for what they're going to build. It tells them exactly how to do, there's a design, tells them exactly how to do it.
Mm.
When you cohabitate and you're outside of the design, you're building something that is not what is designed to be built. And
Ooh.
so the danger of that is now you begin to it's like such a domino effect, right? Because
Mhm.
we're told we're God's masterpiece. We're his workmanship.
Yeah.
He designed us. And for me, when I think of something that's created, everything has a function. Back in the day when I did ceramics, I always say this, when we was working on the clay and stuff and we was molding it, it was going to have a function. It was going to be a cup. It's going to be a
Okay.
bowl. It was going to be able to be
Play
used for
some.
something, right?
Yeah.
And so when I think of us, if we are God's workmanship and we're his handiwork and we're his masterpiece and he molded us and he made us with a function.
That's
And so
good.
what happens when you begin to build something outside of the design of that function is
Mm.
now the impact of how you were supposed to be functioning
Gee.
and everything connected to that is also at risk,
Ooh.
because now you're functioning over here and that may
Mm.
not be the impact that you were designed to function in. So your purpose is really what is at risk when
Mm.
you are designing and building
God get
something
it.
outside of the design that God has for
Mm. That's good. Like you're literally risking your God given purpose because, and I get it. A lot of it is the negative self-talk. It is the mind games. It can be the enemy as well, or just our fear. Because one of the biggest fears that I hear, especially from my single sisters, is more of like, will it ever happen? Or the big one of like, oh, well, everyone doesn't get married. So what if it's not God's will for me? Right. And so it's like, everybody ain't Paul. Let's just say that.
you.
Child, and you ain't everybody, right? As we're even talking about, like, you're God's workmanship, his masterpiece. And then also, God desires godly offspring. That's biblical. How does he get that? Through us being in kingdom marriages. And
Absolutely.
so, it's just interesting that you say that because we don't realize how much we could forfeit. And then we also don't realize, like, who's going to miss out because I'm choosing to go this route instead of going God's way. Like, it's bigger than us, and I'm even realizing that because before God help me, right before we got married, I had I had my little eye candy, okay? And I was like, "I don't know what your plan is, God, but here's my plan." I presented it. I did what I wanted to do. When I tell you, for the first time in my walk, I experienced the windows of escape. The Lord had people calling left. I must have said, "Oh, girl, I'm gonna call you right back. I'm gonna call you right back." And my best friend was like, "I knew something was up because you don't never not talk to me for a long time on the phone. So much you gonna call me back."
Right.
Um.
So you start hiding from your friends. You start
Okay.
hiding from there's something David Burst he says, if I have to hide my God from you, if I have to hide my purpose from you, if I have to
Ooh.
hide you from my purpose or you from my God or you from my friends, and I'm sure I'm paraphrasing, then
Yeah.
you're not the one.
Yeah. Like if I'm up here getting out the phone quick with people, what you getting out the phone for, friend?
Right.
And it's like it's crazy because a lot of it be like what you said, what we've rehearsed. Well, I'm lonely. God's taking too long. My biological clock is ticking. Will I ever get married? Shoot, what if God's trying to have me out here single? I don't know if and it's like it's crazy because the Lord is kind. Because what 2, 3 months later, I meet him. I'm like, I just knew I had added on 6 years. I was like, okay, I done messed up. So I'm gonna add on by 6, 7 years, and that's okay. I'm gonna go be a nun. So well, Lord, I don't know. But but the Lord showed me. I remember we were on the prayer line, and there's a scripture that says in Psalms, blessed is the man whom the Lord chooses. And my pastor said it out of nowhere on the prayer line on Tuesdays one time, and I was like, wait, what is it? And the Lord, through people around me, community,
Mm-hmm.
just start speaking scriptures where he chose. And of course, the main one being with David, because the shoes, Samuel was like, it must be the brother. The brother looked like Saul. We bless God. And I was like, I ain't pick him. And then the last one he gave me was when they had to choose somebody to replace Judas. And I'm like, okay. And then, the Lord divinely orchestrated us. And I'm like, and I look at our lives because we both tried to pick. Okay, picker was off. But I look at our lives and I'm like, I'm listening to what you're saying. And I'm like, man, I or he could have forfeited all of this. Wouldn't be no meaningful monogamy. Okay. All the people who've been encouraged or blessed or whatever moves we make, because I negative self talk. I negative Nancy. I don't trust God, fearful, whatever. But I really just pray that this is an encouragement to whoever watches to just trust God. And so with that being said, I want to give you the opportunity as we come to a close to speak to your future husband. Um, whatever that looks like to you. I want you to talk to him like he is on the other side of that wall. Okay. And he will see this when y'all come back on in Jesus' name. So
Okay. Hi love, darling, honey bunches of oats.
I love it. I used to say that. Okay.
Whatever pet name it is that we have. But hi, darling. I am so glad that we have both surrendered ourselves to God and we have allowed Him to be the Lord of our lives and that we've allowed Him to work through us and to bring us together.
Mm.
And I'm so excited for the purpose and for the impact that He has for us to do in this world. I'm really excited. I know that I'm excited about all of it. I'm
Yeah.
excited about the big things and I'm excited about the small talks as well that we'll have, with each other. I'm excited about just everything that we get to share together. And I'm so proud of you. I'm really appreciative of everything that you do, that you
That's
show
good.
up day in and day out, just, with a heart of gold and a heart of service and a heart of servitude. And I really appreciate you and I honor you. And I just cannot wait until we're able to just share our lives together in so many ways, all the good ways and all the good ways too that I've been waiting for. Okay, because you've just been waiting. I'm excited about that as well. So, I'm just gonna keep praying for you. You can keep praying that God touches your heart, every extension of your heart, every extension of your purpose, and we'll see each other soon.
Oh, oh, oh. All right now. Oh, okay. So forgive me, y'all. He had set me up over here and I was supposed to, but anyways, we got all of that, but it took me a minute to figure out how to get you solo so that they was looking at you and not both of us. Child, but the to God be the glory.
For the
This
thing.
okay. This was amazing. To end, how can people connect with you, learn about your business, enroll in your curriculum? Like, this is your time to let the people know how they can connect.
Okay, so drrachelsilver.com is definitely a way to connect. I'm on Facebook, Instagram at Dr. Rachel Silver. Actually, I have a group called Monetizing Expertise. So for those who have a vision and you're like, you know what, God has given me some things that He wants me to share with the world, whether it be in a marketplace, whether it be, you know,
Oh.
to the greater community, whatever it is, and you may be hesitant or you may have all the thoughts or all the notebooks or all the laptops with all the ideas, definitely join the group Monetizing Your Expertise, because we'll begin to show you how to really manage them and get them into fruit and get them out into the world and impact. So I look forward to connecting with you guys.
Nice. Okay, I'm gonna get this right. I'm gonna get this right. Give me a second. I'm not getting it right. Oh goodness. Give me 1 second. I don't know how to get us both on the screen. He left me like this. All right. So for everyone who watched to the end, thank y'all so much. We definitely appreciate it. Also, when this air, it will be, hopefully you're watching this on the Monday. But Friday we are going live because we are looking, okay, where y'all at? We're looking for 6 Christian singles to come on our live or more to come on our live on Friday because we are looking for contestants for our dating show. Like at the end of the day, y'all, we are trying to equip Christian singles for a kingdom marriage. We want to see y'all married, okay? And not just get y'all married. Hear me out. We want y'all to be able to stay married, okay? It ain't just about getting married, but staying married. So we not gonna just you we're gonna give a little bit more tea to this dating show. It's not just a one hit wonder where it's like you come on and meet somebody. No, like we want to walk alongside of y'all. Like we actually have a vision and a plan. And we also have a community that we've like seen it be done. Let's just say that we've seen it be done right before our eyes, and we're like, hey, what the Lord has done for them, I'm pretty sure He wants to do for others. And so join us. We'll go live on Friday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We're also going to post about this more. Also, Lord help us. If you are watching this, hey you, and you have not subscribed, friend, it's a button. It's a button. You just press it and you can be subscribed and you can know what we have going on, because the ultimate goal is a community, right? We want to have a community here that we can encourage and equip and empower, right? That's always our 3 E's. We're here to support y'all, and so more than anything, I just want y'all to go out there and make today meaningful. Peace, y'all.